as already introduced, my name is Elina ARPONEN, and we've been creating this technology called Drama Game now for almost 4.5 years. And what the tech we have kind of does is it enables us to create these social games with asymmetric multiplayer quest lines. So I will be using examples from our games a lot, and I will shortly first talk about our own background. And I hope some of the insights that we've had building these games will help you, be interesting to you, and you can get some insights out of those. So Tribe Studios was founded at the end of 2010. We actually started with a team, so we had an expert game dev team, and we started thinking, okay, we want to work together. What do we want to do? We started with the core idea of doing something social, something you can enjoy in a short time frame. And something of high quality. And then we kind of came up with the idea of doing these multiplayer stories. And luckily in the beginning, we didn't quite realize how difficult that would be. So it's not a very trivial thing to build, actually. And if we look at games, they always build around challenges. Because to create that optimal state of flow, you need to have the increasing challenges, and then your skills are increasing with the challenges. So traditionally, games often have logic or strategy challenges, or then kind of reaction speed, accuracy challenges. Of course, you can also combine these. Already Tetris is combining the two in a way. So we've been working on the social challenges sector. And that happens when you do asymmetric multiplayer, because you get into questions like, okay, how do I deal with these other players, or how do I interact? Are they enemies? Are they collaborators? And then the challenge becomes very social. And we've been very purely now on that area, but of course you can combine. You can combine social challenge with a reaction speed, a more typical gaming challenge. And now that we see a lot of online socializing happening in all these chat platforms or whatever social networks you have, that actually, for us, we've seen that it brings this kind of social gaming to be more accessible for larger groups of people. So this is like our current like a flagship title, which is available on Steam. So most of my examples will be based on Velvet Sundown. We actually have 4 other games using the same mechanics as well, and I'll mention those later. But this is the kind of biggest one. It's a luxury yacht story, so you are either a passenger or part of a crew on this yacht sailing on a fictional Caribbean state. And one of our worries was in the beginning that people will not get it. Like, it's new type of gameplay, and will they even understand what it is, and will they like it? And that was that was kind of proven now that people actually get it, and they also understand that it's something new, that they don't see so much of it happening elsewhere, which is great. And we've had some nice coverage on the media about that. So we started with the idea of doing kind of a multiplayer adventure. So how would a multiplayer Monkey Island work? How would that look like? But very soon we understood that if you only have like a person-to-world interactions, it's too easy for a multiplayer game that one person ruins it. That they already know the right answer, and then they come in and they are like, oh, this is how it goes, and then it's no fun for anyone else anymore. So to have this kind of a multiplayer adventure and to make it asymmetric, so first of all you start with the asymmetric of agenda, so not everyone is even trying to do the same thing. Plus the interactions between the players affect the results. So in that way, because you don't know how the other ones will always react, it keeps changing and it becomes not so linear in the structure. Actually, it becomes more like a board game logic, that the game is setting the rules, and then the players are free to kind of bend those rules and use them or abuse them as they see fit. And what also happens is when we set the rules or the states for the game, we kind of give the location and we give the unique characters. So all the characters are played by real people. And then it also becomes kind of a true role-playing experience. It's not RPG where you are leveling up a character and getting a better gear. And it's not really even an avatar that is a representation of you in a virtual world. But it's closer to kind of like a pen and paper role-playing where you are really acting or you're really playing and making decisions as somebody else. So game needs a game loop. So how the core mechanics work and what is the core thing you are doing. So we start with the missions, the quests, and they are asymmetric. So everyone can have a little different ones, or some of them can be shared. And then those missions guide you to have a conversation. The conversation is free form, so you type what your character is saying. In Velvet Sundown, we also have a text-to-speech integration, so then you can hear the character talk what you said. But basically, the missions give the objective for the discussion. Okay, so why are we here? What are we discussing? So what's it all about? And then after you start to find your allies or your enemies, you start to do the actions. And then the actions are affecting the missions, like your mission might get completed or you might get a new mission. So this is like the core loop that we have. Just a moment. Yeah, so this was technically the quests and the actions and how do they combine together. That was technically the hardest because that creates a lot of complexity in the storyline. When you have multiple people affecting, it can create even millions or tens of millions of variations, in fact. And first we had the tool to create those story structures, and pretty soon we noticed that we also need a testing tool to automate the testing, because otherwise that was a nightmare. So that was technically the hardest. And now what also comes from this core game loop is that when you have any free discussion, you are dealing with trolling, and how can we make the best of that people are freely interacting. Of course, some amount of trolling is actually okay, because if you are like exaggerating or being a bit obnoxious, that might actually just go to your character, and then that's fine. Everyone's just having fun. But if the trolling goes to like somebody says 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and it's not playing, of course that affects the gameplay for others. And there are ways to deal with that. One is that currently what is happening is that we have some paid content in the game. So a lot of the people, when they are paying, they are not actually paying for the content, but they are paying for the company. So that the players who have paid are less likely to troll. And so that's why you want to be on that side of the game. Then one thing is, of course, matchmaking. So there are different types of players, and this is something that we are still improving on. How can we matchmake best those who want to play with different styles? And also what helps in that is that we have different variations for the gameplay. Currently, Velvet Sundown has 3 variations, and they vary in the kind of axis of how tactical it is or how much role-playing there is. Like the murder scenario, it's actually very close to like a classical Cluedo game, so it's quite tactical. You can just take the evidence and the rumors and kind of consider those and try to pick up the murderer. So you don't really have to go very deep into your character in that scenario. And then Sea of Fire is kind of in the middle, and then we have the story of fathers and sons, which is the deepest in the role-playing aspect, so that you have the characters and their backgrounds, and it's a lot about just building the story. You can't really name a winner. You might feel like a winner if you did something that really worked out and was clever, but it's not really that the game can say who won definitely that scenario. So looking at Sea of Fire, especially, like giving an example of how this kind of story structure might work. So Sea of Fire is from 4 to 11 players. So dynamically the content is adjusting to the amount of people that are there. And first of all, you have the personal quest always. So if you are the journalist, your quest might be to take photographs of the other people. If you are the bartender, you are there to serve drinks to others. They will ask for those. And then there's also the secret agenda. So most of the people on this scenario are undercover agents of either a corporation called Balboil or another one called Explon. And then your task is to get the secret intel of the other corporation and then protect your own data. And the trick is you don't know in the beginning who's on your side and who's not. And to make it more interesting, there are thieves who can steal the data, but also they need to be careful who they steal from, especially that they don't spoil their position too early in the game. And then there are passenger, or in plural, passengers, and That's kind of a sidekick role, but it's actually the most crucial one because they have a lot of the stuff, the data that everyone is looking for. So they can be a key, key point there. And then there are some negotiation tools, like there's loads of money with some people who can use that to buy information. There are some agent gadgets and these kind of things that can kind of spice up the story. But in essence, we set the kind of these actions and the scenario outline, but it's free for the people to kind of play around with that and get to the conclusions as they see fit. So there's some incredible coercion happening sometimes on how people go around it and how can they persuade things to be like they want them to be. And sometimes even if you fail, like if it's a spectacular failure, it might be fun. The charm might be on how did you end up there and what exactly happened. The kind of the practical user experience works like this. So we have this, in a way, a lobby where you choose the scenario. You might set up some parameters for the game. You group up, you can talk. Then you play the game, which is maybe 15 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. It varies actually. And then after the game, you have the debrief chat where you can discuss here the kind of the metagaming comes along on okay, what just happened and kind of like the analysis of it. And then of course you can still go back to the lobby and play again. And this has been working for us pretty effectively. Of course you need a critical mass so that there's no empty lobby syndrome of you not finding the players to play with. Other ways to do this would be, of course, if there was an MMO or existing virtual world, and we could trigger these stories to start from there. And also other places where people are chatting and grouping up, we could use those to trigger the gameplay. So this as kind of a summary of the first. Let's see, what time is it? Yeah. So, so drama game as a technology, we have the conversations with other people or with other people's characters and roles are the core, and then we impose or put on these asymmetric story structures, which are in fact kind of a massive state machines with a lot of states that are possible to come by. Now I'm going to quickly show some of the other games that we've done. And one rant first. I don't like the word serious gaming because it sounds like the games are no longer fun. And some of the serious games that we've done, they are actually quite fun and quite casual, although they have a beneficial purpose. So Linda Trainer is a game where we have like 5-6 scenarios already that are for training customer service scenarios. So you can play through different roles and aspects of that work. And it's actually quite fun and quite effective way to train. Then we have Lateral Gallery, which is closest to having an avatar in the game. So here you are not going into a very deep role, but you are almost like yourself, but it's a brainstorming tool. So you are coming there with your team, and the game is helping you, it's coaching you to find new insights to some difficult question that you have. And the question is something you define in the beginning yourself. So here it's a key to be anonymous with your peers, that you don't know who's actually who. The same goes here, having the anonymity of dealing with difficult issues. Agile Avenue is a Scrum simulation, so if you know the Scrum software development process, I'm sure many of you do. So you can here practice what Scrum is, or you can plan for your next sprint by bringing in your real sprint items inside to the game. And then you can have these discussions about difficult stuff and be anonymous still in the game. The latest one is a similar type of game, but it's for healthcare personnel on how to deal with patients and their next of kin. This is the latest one. And what we learned with this one is that the nurses, they don't train so much on social skills, they train on the meters. So I think there will be there will be need for this as well. So how do I see the future so where are we going with social and asymmetric gameplay? I can see there are 3 main strands happening right now. There are sandbox environments. This is like Dayjet, for example, that they give you a box and you can do a lot of stuff, and of course you do interact with other players, and the game kind of relies you to interact with other players as well. Then you have these AI NPC-based solutions. There's, for example, Storybricks is working on this area, where they have very elaborate NPC logic, that the group of NPCs, for example, not only reacts to you in a very intelligent way, but if somebody else interacts with that group of NPCs, that affects how they react to you. So, so of course the AI and this kind of systems are evolving as well. And then there's this kind of player-to-player action-based solutions, and that would be us. So having the actions that players do inside the game to affect the outcome. And I can't name really much any other examples exactly from this area. So if you know any, or if you are working on this area, or if you are interested in working in this area, please please come and talk to me. We can share more notes on that stuff as well. Thank you. And if there's any question, I think we have a moment.
Any question here? Okay.
Yeah. You said that games are 15 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And this is a discussion between players by typing.
Yeah.
15 minutes with 4 to 11 players discussing in several discussions with typing. That sounds really, really short.
Yeah, well, 15 minutes would be towards that 4 players scenario. I mean, the amount of players actually lengthens the game.
Yeah, sure, but still, I mean, even 45 minutes with 11 players, it sounds quite short. So how complicated are these scenarios?
It varies, the complexity. And if it's a complex one, then yeah, it would be that 45 minutes. But we've seen actually that going over an hour is a bit exhausting also, because it's quite intense. And we see that the players, they get hang of it very fast on how do they start to build alliances and stuff. So I think 45 minutes is already quite enough for a lot of action in the game. We don't also want it to drag too long. Yeah, I'd say that if you are playing for the first time, when this goes also of the matchmaking part of it, but for the first time it might feel too fast if you are new to the gameplay. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Hi. How do you deal with quitters if somebody leaves the game early?
Yeah, some of that, some scenarios and some of the some of the games can tolerate that a bit. Of course, if half people leave, then it's not so good. And it depends a bit on the role of the quitter sometimes. So if it was like the Sea of Fire, the passenger quits before the data moves, it right now would be an issue. But we are actually building ways to deal with that. On how can we automatically kind of leverage the story back up if somebody quits. But we haven't implemented all of those things yet. So right now, if people are quitting, you can actually quit the game without penalty. There's a penalty if you keep quitting your games. Yeah, that you can access the new game again until time lapses. Yeah. Okay.
More questions here? Oh, again, okay, one. Let's go on the conversation.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay, a second question then. You said there are penalties, so the matchmaking system already rewards or punishes people for correct or wrong behavior?
Not really the matchmaking system, not yet, but it's just you can access a new game. So there's a time penalty, so when you can come back if you are quitting. So that if you don't get your, for example, if you don't get your favorite character and you could quit because of that, then you can't. You have to wait before you can access again. So to encourage people to play with all the characters, And I think this is something that other games are doing as well. So it's quite a lot of even the basic kind of multiplayer tactics you can do for trolling and curating the people apply here as well.
Okay, so kind of a reward or a punishment or rating system from other users who were in the same game is something you're thinking about as well, compared to, for example, the raid system from Riot games.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like scoring and matchmaking, something we're still working on. But yeah, that's essentially what can be done about it. That you can kind of report or create people as well.
All right, thanks.
More questions? Here.
Yeah, you mentioned like people trying to get their favorite character. So if you play the game multiple times, can you start abusing your knowledge of the scenario? Does it have like any random elements in it?
There's enough random elements that you don't get to abuse it, but we have noticed that it does bring more of the story spice into it, that people start to know the characters. Like some of the characters have developed their own kind of personalities, that, oh boy, the bartender is always such and such. How can it be always such and such when there's always different people playing it? But still they start to get these like stereotypical things happening, and so I think it like playing it many times affects the gameplay only in a positive way, and we've seen that there's a lot of replay value in the scenario because people keep playing it a lot.
Any more questions? Oh, again, one from me as always. Have you tried partnering with? Have you tried partnering with existing board game makers? Because there's some very popular like role-playing or storytelling games. I don't know if they are popular outside France, but for example, one about lone wolf and villagers, or vampires and villagers, stuff like that. Are you always trying to create your own stories?
We could do partnerships. Yeah, haven't done yet on that area, but yeah, we could do like content partnering. Some area we've been thinking about is also like taking TV series characters or something like that, where you could have your favorite world, and then you have the interactive episode where you're kind of crowdsourcing ideas to the players on, okay, how does this end, and so taking any kind of story IP, yeah, we could work with that. Especially if it has multiple interesting roles or characters or things like that. If it's just one James Bond, we don't want to duplicate 10 James Bonds, it might get boring. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Elina. A big round of applause again.
Thank you.